That's a boundary that I'm not crossing with a teacher. That's so weird to me. I can't do that. That is not for me. Dear Diary, mood, I don't like assistant directing.
Film school diary, my 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 film school diary.
Hey everybody, so today I want to start talking about our production workshops. So in our actual main program, we had to do about 6 projects for our own personal portfolios. That went towards our personal grade and went towards our work at the school. But during those time periods, we also had little weeks where as a whole class, we'd have to shoot a film together. And, the first few times we did the backlots, we went there and we shot on the film camera so we could learn film cameras. The teachers were there. We had Darian teaching us the cinematography side of it. We had Terry teaching us the directing side of it. And we all would go to the backlots and shoot on film cameras, learn that together as a whole class. We'd probably work on big projects together, or in my case, we did kind of split up into little teams and do our stuff. But as the production workshops moved forward, they wanted us to start working as a whole class so we'd understand what it was like to be on a bigger set of more like 12 people, not just 3 or 4. So we had to start doing our production workshops when we got into digital. Because despite us shooting our music videos on digital, we weren't actually supposed to be shooting those on digital. We were actually supposed to still do those on film. So our production workshops were actually supposed to be the first time we got a hold of digital cameras. So technically, that was where we were supposed to be learning. It was with the teachers, learning these different ins and outs of digital cameras, how they worked, how the lenses worked, and things like that. Despite our already kind of heavy workload for our own personal projects, we then had to start doing larger production workshops with the whole class. There was going to be 4 in total. So the way they set it up, though, was it was going to be a rotating of positions. So everybody in the class had to do one of 4 different positions. So you could either choose to direct it, be the cinematographer for it, the producer, or the assistant director. You had to pick one of those, and each week we were going to rotate around of who was going to be in those different positions, essentially. So at some point, everyone was going to have to do one of those positions. We all had to come up with ideas also. They were stuff we had to script. We had to direct it, script it, cast it, all those good things. We were able to work with a lot of the actors from our school if we wanted to set up with them because they needed to do some production workshop also, and they needed directors to direct them. So we were able to work with we got to work with a lot of our school's actors. So it was coming around, we had to kind of do like a Red Robin kind of situation almost where we had to go around the class and decide what positions we were going to do when and who was going to direct here, who's going to do that, whatever. Great, fine. And like I said, I think we had about like 12 people in the class at this time, but we actually had just gotten a new class member, and I want to bring him up before I go too deep into the story because I ended up working with him on this one. So I'm going to name him Jarvis. We're going to call him Jarvis. That is not his real name, nor is this a real photo of him. But I wanted to include him because this was like his first class with us, which was interesting because up to this point, we'd all been kind of working together, knew each other, but we had a new person coming in as soon as we got into digital. So we had like a new classmate to get to know and to work with. Honestly, he was very sweet, very nice. I can't remember if he transferred in from a different campus or from a different class, but he'd been doing the work already. It wasn't like he was just like starting. He knew what he was doing as well, so it was cool to have him on set. Jarvis was like a really good guy, and honestly, like worked with him on a lot of projects. I even just worked with him, I think, on Carly's final project. We all worked together. So anyway, we had to decide who was going to be directing which projects, which weeks, and whatnot. Essentially, these were all going to be projects we were going to do on Sundays because we were able to use the school if we wanted to as our location, and it was like a day when the school wasn't full or busy. So we were going through who was going to direct what, and so I honestly wasn't really in the mood to direct at this point. I didn't really have any ideas that I wanted to pursue with the whole class, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Plus, I wanted to start doing other things, I think. I was kind of getting tired of it. I will say for 3 of the 4 projects, I was the production designer and the makeup artist. I professionally do makeup and I'm a drag queen. So honestly, like I am pretty adept at doing makeup. I also really love set decorations, so nobody else in the class could do makeup or set deck, so they really, like, once I kind of stepped up for most of the projects, they allowed me to do it. They were like, yeah, you can decorate these, sure, go for it. So anyway, I wasn't gonna be able to do that for all 4 though. One of the projects I did have to do one of the key positions, so I was kind of hemming and hawing, and at this point in my life we hadn't had a producing class, so I didn't know what that entitled. Everything I had known up to this point about producing was very much about you have to essentially do the money, you have to do the scheduling, all the big scary stuff. And back then I was like, that's something I don't know how to do. I don't know how to raise money for this. It was at school. I didn't have to raise money for anything. But at this point, I'm like, I don't know if I want to produce either. And I had still not really understood cinematography. This is our first time with digital cameras, and I did not want to be learning in front of everybody on the fly. So the only position that felt open for me during that project was assistant directing. And I was like, okay, it's kind of like directing, but without all the pressure of coming up with concepts or ideas. I'm like, I can assistant direct for somebody probably. So for when it came around to my week when I had to do the class where I was in the key position, I decided to go as a assistant director, which I was like, okay, that's cool. I can assistant direct. I can do that pretty well. I guess I've never done it before. I didn't really even know that was a real position until that moment. So I was like, okay. So Jarvis wanted to direct. He was new to the class. He wanted to show everybody what he could do because he hadn't done any projects with us yet. We haven't seen any of his work, so we wanted to direct. So I offered to be his assistant director. He's new. I get to know him, and I get to try out assistant directing. It'll be really fun. And so it was like, okay, this is going to be really cool. I can do this. I can have a lot of fun assistant directing. All I got to do is kind of take charge of the set when he's not in charge, and I can do that. So assistant directing is a very, very hard position. It is my least favorite position on set. It's one of those things where you have everybody's name in your mouth, but you really don't get the final say. You have to essentially tell everybody what the director wants them to know. So it's always very much a back and forth, and that is just not really something I'm good at. It is not my personal favorite. I would not really call myself an assistant director. I just don't think I'm cut out for it. It's just not for me. But I learned that because of this production workshop. So Jarvis had some ideas. He wanted to do like a hellscape type thing. He wanted to do like a very stylized, scary kind of hell situation. And I was like, oh, I love that. I love horror. I'm ready for this. And so I was like, okay, I can help you get your vision. So he came up with a script. And again, I don't know if he learned differently from his other class or from the other campus or whatnot, but the script was a little bit formatted differently. So I had to kind of figure out what that looked like. As the person who was going to have to tell everybody what they need to do, where they need to be, and where the positions were, I had to kind of figure that out. So we're having a little bit of a communication barrier in that. And Jarvis was a really cool person that I got along really well, personally, but we had a little bit of communication errors. Just there's a couple things where just some of the things didn't translate over. We understood each other on a personal level, but I just think working wise, there were just certain words that neither of us really understood what the other one meant. So it was learning and meeting someone brand new on the day when you're assistant directing for them is kind of wild. So the idea was he wanted to have a scary, all the extras out the window clawing, trying to get in through the window. And then we were going to have the one girl open the book, and it was going to be all dramatic and wind was going to flow. And it was honestly a very cinematographer-esque kind of short film, to be honest. I think he was really into cinematography, so we really wanted to focus on the drama there. And so that was going to be where a lot of our attention was going to be for this short film. But as the assistant director, I was going to be in charge of the extras. That's very much the assistant director's main job would be purveying the information from director to each crew member and wrangling the extras. The hard part though is most of the extras were my classmates. For people who didn't actually have a position on the film, they were going to be the people who were clawing at the windows. They were going to be the ghosts. They're going to be the scary people, whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. And so we got all of our equipment. Everything was going pretty smooth. And it was really funny because up to this point, I was known as the makeup guy on set. So people were really surprised that I was actually in a key point here. I was in charge of something important. And so I remember Omar was hilarious because he offered to do set decoration because I guess he had a big book that would work for the scary book. And he's like, oh, I can do it. And so that also made he was in charge of makeup as well because they kind of put those two positions together. So I brought makeup for him because I know he didn't have any. He was not the kind of guy who did makeup. He wasn't some kind of guy who wore makeup. He wasn't a makeup person. So I brought the makeup for him. And I'm running around on set trying to keep stuff together. And it divulged into chaos very quickly because I was not running a set properly, nor did I really know how to run a set as an assistant director. It was not something that I really understood. And again, this is the first time I even learned about the position existing. So I was learning on the fly. So we had Terry there who was very much trying to put Jarvis in the hot seat that day. It was first time we met Jarvis, and Terry wanted to test him, I think. Possibly Terry wanted to test me as well. I don't know. All I know is I did not give him enough time to talk to me or test me because I ran off to check on everyone's department. I was like a chicken with my head cut off. Terry literally said those words to me. He goes, Jay, you look like a chicken running around with your head cut off. Take a breath. And I was like, I can't. I'm busy. Ah! So meanwhile, Darren's very chill, just get the cameras. It doesn't matter. It's digital. We can shoot this all day if we want. He was chill, and Terry was turning the the screws on Jarvis and me. So I run over to Omar, who is supposed to be doing the makeup for the zombie demon things, and he's just like standing there looking at the makeup. And I'm like, okay, you at least gotta cover them in powder. We can't have them shiny. And he's like, but you're the makeup guy. And I'm like, I'm the assistant director today. I'm like, I cannot hold your hand on this. And he's like, can you at least give me a quick sign of what to do? And I'm like, okay, so big old brush, big fluffy brush, get in the powder and just go over their face. So I want to say he took Red. She was one of the extras. So he had her. And he's like, oh, I got this. And he just starts slapping her in the face with the brush. And she's like, and he's like, oh, this is easy. She's like, I can't breathe. And I'm like, Omar, a light dusting. And it was so cute. He's like, oh, okay. So Omar was learning makeup the whole day, and it was hilarious. As I'm running around with my head cut off like a chicken, he's over there just slapping people in the face with powder. And he's like, I got it. I was like, okay, Omar, you did makeup. You did the thing. Good job, buddy. So we're doing that, and we're getting a late start because, I don't know, I guess the shot they wanted, the cinematographer and Jarvis wanted, was very much, they had like a very crazy crane shot, but we didn't have a crane, so we had to do a crazy zoom in. They wanted to do like the Vertigo shot where it's like you zoom in and full focus at the same time, so it makes the background look like ta-da, which everybody in my class wanted to do that shot for some reason, except me. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just want a shot and to leave. So they were working on that, and we kept not getting the shots taken, and it was messy, and it was getting like to the point where Terry and Jarvis were like back and forth. And Jarvis was a very sweet kid. Like, he was very pleasant. I mean, he's probably like twice my age, but like he felt like a nice, really sweet kid. He was very much like trying to be respectful. And Terry was, I don't know if Terry's blood sugar was low or something, but he was like ravenous towards him. He was like screaming at him. And one of the biggest things that I've always been taught by Terry directly is if you are the director and you have to have a fight with somebody like a crew member, you don't do it in front of the actors. His exact words were, the kids can't watch his mommy and daddy fight. So that's a very important thing. And so Terry's yelling in front of our actors from the other class. He's yelling in front of all of our extras, even though they're our classmates, they're still our extras. And he's yelling at me, and he's yelling at Jarvis. And he's going off, and he's having a full meltdown screaming about something. I don't know what he's even yelling at. And I calmly said to him, as he's screaming, red-faced, spitting, I calmly go, Terry, I need to excuse the actors because the kids cannot watch mommy and daddy fight. And so I say, come on, actors, it's break time. Let's go to break. Take an apple box. We're taking 5. And Terry stopped and he went, you're right. We don't fight in front of the kids. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Took a step back and he's like, I think my blood sugar's a little low. And I was like, that's great. And that was the only moment I felt like an assistant director in my whole life of, yes, sir, you can yell at me in a moment, but I need to get my actors out of here so they do not get impeded by someone screaming. Their performances will be affected by that anger, and we don't need that right now. So I moved them out. So we finally get the show on the road late in the day. We are deep into it. We were like an hour away from lunch. And we're only getting our first shot. And the hard part with this project was there wasn't a lot to do, but it felt like everybody had something to say about how we were doing it, so it was taking a very long time. There was a lot of cooks cooking in the kitchen. And so at a certain point, it got very difficult with the extras that I was wrangling because I'm not going to say who or even give off the code names, but one of our classmates who was acting in this didn't shower that day. And it was very apparent. In the small area where all the actors were clawing at the windows, one of our classmates smelled very bad, and it was making a problem for all of the cast. And it was to the point where, like, people were walking out. This was their class that they were being graded on, and they were walking out. These were my classmates walking out on this almost. Like, they were, like, leaving. We're in the middle of a shot, and they just get up and leave. And so I have to deal with that as the assistant director. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And finally, somebody's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He smells so bad. I can't deal with this. And so I'm like, I don't know what to say to him. I don't know what to do with this. So I go over to Terry, and I'm like, Terry. And he's like zen all of a sudden. After our little conversation, he's like, yes, what is it? What can I do with you, my child? What can I help you with? And I'm like, so-and-so didn't shower today, and he stinks. What do I do? Well, you just got to deal with it. I'm like, the actors are leaving. And he's like, hard for them, and walks away. And I'm like, I don't know how to brush that. To this point, I still wouldn't know how to say about that. If anything, I think I would just keep like perfume on me or something and just spray it over the whole crowd at this point. I don't know how to talk about that. So anyway, I finally tell the actors, yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. I'm so sorry, but we're gonna have to just grin and bear it, which is not fair to them, not fair to me, not fair to anybody. It's a crazy situation that I was in, that they were in. They were the one actually behind the glass. I was at least on the other side with the director, thank goodness. So anyway, we finally start getting the shots done. We're finally getting some momentum. The camera's on the track. It is moving. We are filming. We are seeing what we want. The wind's flowing. The hair's, flying back. The pages are flowing. Boom. It's 1 o'clock. That's lunch. Got to take a lunch break. Okay. So something about me personally is when I get stressed, I cannot eat. That's a big thing about me. I'm like the opposite of a stress eater. I cannot eat if I'm stressed. Like I just shut down and I have to like back away. I can't eat food. And so Red, July, Carly, they were like, okay, we're gonna go down the street to the cafe. You wanna go? Let's go get some food. Let's have a nice little hour break. And I was like, I can't eat right now. This is too much for me. I'm good. So I haunted the halls for an hour, just wandering the halls of the school, completely zoned out, gone. Behind the eyes, empty. I'm like, not doing well. This was like a very hard day on me, and I did not enjoy this. So I'm like haunting the halls, and everybody's gone. It's empty. It's quiet. Honestly, it was very relaxing to just get my zen back and find my peace. And so I turn around a corner and I smell salmon. And I'm like, what? Why is there salmon here? Why does it smell like salmon? No one's here. I turn the corner. Terry's sitting there, and he's just eating a little thing of salmon, a full piece of salmon. And I'm like, hey, Terry, you having some salmon? And he's like, yeah. It has good vitamins. I'm like, oh, okay. And again, it was very weird because literally like 2 hours ago, he was screaming at us, losing his mind. And he's like, yeah, low blood sugar. It's a problem. You better be eating lunch. And I was like, I'm literally not. I can't. He's like, you should get something. Low blood sugar. It's no joke. I was like, okay. He's like, do you want some salmon? He's like eating this like whole salmon. And I'm like, I'm good. That was the thing with Terry. He had a bit of a boundary issues when it came with food. Side story completely. But there was one time it was very hot. It was still like at the beginning of school. It was burning up, really hot out. And I always brought bottles of water with me. Wherever I went, I always had a bottle of water because I don't like being dehydrated. And so I have it right there on the desk. He walks over and explicitly opens my water. Can I have this? Chugs it. And they go, here you go. Gives it back to me. I'm like, I'm not sharing a water bottle with you. I don't know you. That's crazy. That's a boundary that I'm not crossing with a teacher. That's so weird to me. I can't do that. That is not for me. But he's always offering me food or something. And I had food. I could bring food if I want. I could go buy food if I want. But I was like, I don't really want this. I don't want to share salmon with my teacher by myself in the school. And it was just very weird. So I was like, no, thanks. I appreciate it, Terry, but I'm not going to be sharing food with you right now. So I go back to my walk, but I'm like, he's right. I should probably get some sort of snack. And this is where I discovered that the vending machine down the hall had Rice Krispie treats. So I put a couple dollar bills in, got a Rice Krispie treat, got a little cheese nip, Cheez-It action. I had a little snack, and I was ready to start the day again. Thankfully, the second part of the day went by a lot faster. It went by, we knew what we were doing, everything was set up, and we could just knock out the shots. Realistically, it was like 2 shots. It was a shot of like a slow zoom in and then a cut to a bunch of zombies out a window. It didn't need to take as long as it did. But once we got back in, everybody was moving. Nobody was talking about the guy who was kind of smelling. So we kind of got to persevere forward and push through some of the drama until we got the final project done. And like, honestly, it was interesting because it was, like I said, the very first time that I would assistant direct. And I think, honestly, the last time I assistant directed. To this point in my life, I still will not do assistant directing. I know there's like a program you can even do if you want to, something like if you want to join the Directors Guild or something, you can go start off as an assistant director and they'll put you in the right places. And I'm like, honestly, I don't know if I'm cut out for that. After this one day of assistant directing, I don't know if it was for me. I don't know if maybe I would have had more time to learn about assistant directing and if I would have actually had more of a understanding and grasp of what to do and like the power I actually held as that part of the project, I might have done better. But honestly, to this day, I'm like, I don't want to assistant direct. No, I'll direct your project. I'll produce your project. I'll even cinematographer your project at this point. But I'm like, I can't assistant direct. It's like a weird thing. I can't back down on it. It gives me the weirdest like feeling in my tummy. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it again. I don't want to do it. I'm scared. I don't want to. Honestly, I probably should try again because it could be fun to see if I do any better. But yeah, so that was what I did in our production workshop, our first production workshop. Got to be in charge of that, which was interesting. It was very exciting to try to do something different. Thankfully, we only had to do one of the key components, and like I said, for the other ones, I did get to actually do what I was good at, which was set decoration and makeup. I do have some really fun stories about the other projects when I did the makeup, because honestly, set deck and makeup was so fun because you got to know people and really it was the best form of my version of art. And so I will definitely try to do some videos about that because I think they were a lot of fun and very exciting. We had some really weird ones. We did car commercials. We did actual short films. We did an infomercial that I wrote. That's a fun one. I'm going to see if I can get somebody to come on here and talk about it with me because I had a really fun experience with that, with the infomercial. I actually wrote that one and it's so funny. It's like one of my favorite projects we've ever done. So I definitely will try to get somebody special to guest star and talk about that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get them on here. But yeah, so that was very much the first experience I had with assistant directing. I didn't really expect that from a production workshop because up to that point our production workshops have been very much like point and shoot and call it a day. It very much felt like classwork because the teachers kind of held our hands, but that was the first time we had like real actors in there who didn't have to say if they didn't want to. We had a bigger crew. The bigger the crew, honestly, the harder it is to kind of keep people on the right path of what they're doing. So I think that is a very interesting conversation to have about like doing our little projects where it was 4 people to a crew. It was fine, but you knew who everybody was and what they were doing, and they all came to you instantly. There was no line of command. You could just kind of tell everybody what to do and call it a day. You didn't have to run it through the lines of communication. But versus having a bigger project, you do have to kind of like, a big thing is like actors only talk to the director, the cinematographer talks right to the director, and then you get like the cinematographer can talk to the assistant director and their crew, but then like their crew isn't supposed to talk to the director, only the assistant director. So it's like really weird lines of communication that you have to kind of observe in like a professional set. And to this day, it's not my favorite thing, but I understand why it's there. So like it is a very important part. Like I did pick certain people to be my assistant directors who I very much trusted for my bigger projects. I was very lucky to have certain people that made sense and worked well with my crews for my assistant directors, which we'll get into when we get into those projects. Especially with my first year thesis and my second year thesis, I used the same person, and it was good to just have somebody who you could kind of like trust and rely on, who was good at kind of being the loudest person there, who could kind of say like, "Calm down, everybody, calm down," like that kind of thing. So that was definitely interesting. I will say that I would not knowing what I know now, I definitely would have gone into the producing side of it because that was a weird thing that at this time, I remember it being one of those, I was so scared to produce a production workshop because I did not know what that entitled. I really thought producing at that point was literally just paying for everything and like the money guy. And I did not have extra money for that. I'm like, I don't know where to get money for this. I don't know how to fundraise. I don't know. But no, like I ended up finding out later that no, producers are very much the person who kind of fixes all the holes. And realistically, my life has taken more of a producer role in general. Like, I mean, I filmmake, obviously, but I've noticed that I do actually enjoy a lot more of the producing side of it. I do enjoy a lot more of the like taking charge of things. I enjoy a lot more of the actual paperwork side of it. One of the things where you can kind of just sit down and like make out a schedule. You can sit down and make out a budget. You can do all those kind of things. So looking back on it now, I probably would have done more of a producing side of it. I will say, off topic, kind of, but in my year 2, we had to do the same kind of production workshop schedule. But it was the same thing where everybody changed positions, which is weird because we all had done this already. We'd already done a whole year of school, but they wanted us to refresh, I guess, so they had us kind of changing positions. And I will say there was one that I was in charge of. For my key position, I decided to take producing up because I knew at that point I knew how to produce, I knew what I was doing, and I had gone to a real producing class, so I liked producing at that point. So for that little project, I did produce that one. But then the problem is the assistant director had to leave early, and they decided that I'm practically the assistant director now, so I did technically have to assistant direct for the second year project too, and produce that one. But it wasn't as bad because we were already kind of halfway through the day, and at that point I was way too busy with my producing things to actually help as an assistant director. So I think it was by title only, but technically I did assistant direct that second time. But not for me. I don't like it. Not an assistant director. Some people thrive there. Some people really are good at that. But I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's very much an analytical kind of part of the project when you assistant direct. It isn't very creative. I mean, I guess it could. Some people might find it creative. I don't. I feel like it's very much just helping someone else find their creativity, which I guess I could be okay at, but I prefer it on a producer side because you can actually make big changes. I feel like assistant director is very much just like making sure people who are already there stay where they are and help them there. And it's just, I don't know, it wasn't for me. I don't know, but it was definitely an interesting experience to say the least. I really wish I could get a hold of everybody else from class to find out what positions they did, because I don't remember exactly where each person, what they did. I want to say I think July did a cinematography one. He might have done the cinematography for this project, I think, because I want to say him and Jarvis got along really well, and they ended up working together a lot on cinematography stuff. So July might have done the cinematography for that project. I know for a fact that Red was an extra in the project that I art directed, and Carly, I want to say she might have been doing possibly, and she was either being an extra or she was doing sound. I cannot remember. I could not tell you exactly. She might not have been there. I know she missed one of them. It might have been mine she missed. I cannot remember. No. She was there. She went to lunch with them. So I'm going to say I think she might have been an extra or doing sound. I could not tell you. Nor do I think anybody else would remember. I just know that it was definitely one of those things where I did not have control over that set. So you live, you learn, and you get better at what you do. But that was the first time I really assistant directed in our production workshop. I really wish I could find the project. I sadly don't even have Jarvis anymore on my social medias or anything, so I can't even contact him and be like, hey, do you have this? Not that I think he even really was that excited about it. I don't even know if he edited it as much as he might. I think somebody in class might have edited it. It's hard to say edited it. But yeah, I think we watched it, and it was very quick. I felt like it was 30 seconds long. It wasn't like we got that much out of it, despite it taking so long to get all these shots. It was pretty quick, short, like a short film. But either way, it was fun to definitely see what we did as a class, because this is the first time we actually worked together as a class. And it sounds crazy, but going from a crew of 4 to a crew of 12 is drastically different. Even though they are people who are all striving for the same thing, people got a lot of opinions. People have a lot to say, and especially I've noticed this when it comes to film students in general. Everybody's got a lot to say about cinematography. For me personally, I will take anyone's advice on cinematography because I'm not a cinematographer, or at least at the time I wasn't. I'm better at it now, but back then I was not somebody who knew or cared what it did. It wasn't my personal genre of filmmaking, so I didn't really participate in those conversations. But that's why our Virgo shot, the drastic zoom in, slow zoom shot took so long because everybody had a different opinion on how to do it, even though our cinematographer teacher's right there telling you exactly how to do it. Everybody had an opinion, and there was too many cooks in the kitchen. And so that is something that's interesting, that as looking back on it now, if I was going back in time and doing this again as the assistant director, it would be one of those things of quiet on set, guys. The cinematographer needs to talk to the director. This does not need to be the gaffers and the sound guy weighing in on how the shot works, because we all like movies. It's one of those things. So honestly, I'll take responsibility for something like that. But knowing what I know now, it's that was my job to say something, and I didn't know that yet. So that is a very important thing to learn, especially if you are going to take up a position like that, is what is okay for you to say? Who do you say it to? The lines of communication are very important, and it might not be exactly what you'd expect or exactly what you want, but sometimes you do have to talk to an assistant director, or you do have to talk to the person in your department. I feel like a lot of people just are oh, I'm friends with the director, I can talk to them. You can't talk to the director directly most of the time. You have to go to somebody who works under them, like the assistant director or whatever. You can't just run up. You can't really expect a gaffer to be able to have the same amount of time as an actor when it comes to talking to the director. Some people do need to have their time personally, one-on-one with the person right above them. So I do think that is a very kind of fun thing to learn about, and that learning that through the production workshops was a very safe place to do that. Because if this would have been a bigger set, I probably wouldn't be hired again. I feel like if this was one of those things where it wasn't a learning environment, I don't think people would want to work with me, because I did feel like a chicken with their head cut off, running around, losing my mind. And did we get the shots? Sure. But could it have been better? Probably. Also, this was where you learn it, so I'm glad that I learned it in the proper environment. But yeah, so honestly, I feel like this was the time in my life where things started to kind of fall into place a little better, because we had just finished our film time period where we were supposed to be only filming on film. And I feel like doing the digital was a very big turning point, because it was very much what we'd be doing for the rest of our career for the most part, unless you were one of those directors who could afford to do on film. So we all kind of did get to take our ideas a little bit further. We didn't have to constantly be worried if it was going to turn out good or bad. We were able to just kind of have fun with it now. And the production workshops, they were very busy. Like every week we had a production workshop, but we were able to cut back a little bit on our actual personal projects because we only had like, I want to say we had like 4 more big ones that we had to do before the end of the first year, but it wasn't going to be as every single week because every single week we were doing stuff with school. But at least that was one of the things where it was kind of like an in-class type thing. It was very much clear cut hours. Like we have to be done by 6. We're not going to be able to go 12 hours. We have to be done at a 9 to 5 class type thing. So overall it got us a little more structured and made it a little bit more bearable and be able to breathe a little bit because it wasn't a crazy every single minute we have to work on our thing, and if we fail it's on us and just us only. So we kind of had to do more as a team, which was interesting. Make sure you follow and like for more content